is a photo of my grandmother, Pliny Phelps.
This is a photo of my great-grandmother, Pliny Phelps.
And this is a photo of my great-great-grandmother, Pliny Phelps.
What I remember the most about my grandmother, that she was an exceptionally kind woman. She's born in 1890, married my grandfather, had 11 children, and what impressed me, she had 15 dogs that lived underneath their front porch.
Wait, your dad's in the audience. Can we have 15 dogs? Come on.
They can live under the porch.
As my grandmother's family expanded and her children married and spouses were welcomed in the family, she married, my mother Irene married Pliny's third oldest son, Herschel, and she loved her mother-in-law so much.
What I've learned about my great-grandmothers is that my maternal grandmother was an absolutely terrible cook, and also that she could never understand how the modern interstate highway system worked, so she refused to travel on it because she couldn't understand how cars could be going in two different directions, north and south, and still end up at the same destination, which has absolutely nothing to do with anything, but it's interesting. But Pliny, my paternal great-grandmother, she was an excellent cook and an even better baker. And she never left her rural Missouri home before her passing in 1965 to even try out the emerging United States interstate highway system.
But over time, because my mother's mother, my grandmother, was a bad cook, my grandmother taught my mother how to cook and to bake. And my father was a farmer, so my mother basically spent all day in the kitchen preparing breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And if you've ever enjoyed our pies from Peggy Jean's, I hope you have. Hey! Then you've enjoyed the pie dough that Pliny taught my mother, who taught me how to make. The recipe wasn't written down, and my grandmother taught my mother completely by feel and intuition. And it took me about 3 years to learn how to make that dough that my mother made.
To this day, the dough recipe still isn't written down, and this puts a lot of pressure on me. You would think that in 4 generations, somebody at some point would have gotten out a Post-it note, so don't worry,
That's
I got
on
you.
What's this for?
Post-it note.
Oh, Coke doesn't even write down their recipe.
Sorry, you're not getting one.
When I was young, my twin sister, Janie, and I would love to go to my grandmother's house and play. It was a 2-story home, and we went upstairs and got into her closet, and she only had one dress hanging up, and it was a black dress. It was her, as she would say, her funeral dress. And she had on the shelf was a single black purse, and we were so curious, we snuck that down and looked at it, hoping to find some money or something. But all she had in it was one fresh or pressed linen handkerchief. No money, no keys, just a single handkerchief.
What sticks in my mind about Pliny is something my mother told me a long time ago. My great-grandmother had absolutely no say over her own life except what she planned for dinner each night. And even that was at the whim of what my great-grandfather liked to eat. But for everything else in her life, her husband was the final decision maker. He even kept a box of Wheaties on the top shelf in the kitchen that no one was allowed to eat, not even Pliny. And that, what didn't make him a bad person, he was simply a man of the time, and he was the head of his household.
So what we're here to say tonight is that over time, we are creating a world where a woman has absolute and final say over the direction and course of her life. It is amazing to think that doing something Pliny didn't think much of, making pies, has become a successful business started by the women in my family. It shows that over the years, women have created opportunities where they have equal or final say. However, there is always so much more to be done for women my age and for future generations. We absolutely must continue to encourage women to create new paths and opportunities for themselves.
Well, you might have heard that I tell others that I'm unemployable, which is true.
We all are. We all are.
Yeah.
I don't like rules, I don't like structure or following any expected path. Even now, my son-in-law gets on to me about being a rule breaker. But in the early 1990s, I was working at a job that I hated, but I won't say where. It was a long string of jobs that I hated. So like Taylor Swift famously sings,
It's me. Hi, I'm the problem. It's me.
For years, I wanted to start my own business, and I bought tons of franchise books because there was no internet, and that was the only way to research my options. Purchasing a franchise requires so much investment, and as a single mom, I didn't have anything in savings whatsoever. So one weekend, I had some friends over from out of town, and on a whim, I made an apple pie for dessert. They absolutely loved it, and they kept talking about it, and they said, hey, why don't you bake apple pies and sell them? And I thought, oh my gosh, why not? It never occurred to me. It wasn't the worst idea I'd ever considered. And believe me, I'd already tried selling satellite TV door to door, so I basically tried it all.
So when I was in my first years of college at Mizzou, Mom and her best friend Peggy started cold calling people in the phone book and asking if they would purchase a pie if there were a pie shop in town. And then they recorded their results on paper and used those to help them decide if a pie shop was a viable idea.
Which feels like an incredibly awkward idea to me, but
But it wasn't, Ellery. People love to talk about pie. Sometimes I would dread if a man answered, you couldn't get off the phone. They wanted to tell you about their mothers and their grandmother's pies. But people love talking about pie.
no, I mean like calling people on the phone part. Like I would never have picked up the phone if you did that nowadays.
No one in your generation does talk on the phone. You all text. But we knew from talking to people, and I still like to call people send text.
She's weird.
We randomly could, if we could tell them, if we could sell pies and tell them about it, would they come? And we got a great response. So we combined $800 in savings, rented a space on the business loop behind a gun shop, a porn shop, and a bait shop on a month-to-month basis. We bought a used residential refrigerator and an oven out of the classified sections of the Columbia Daily Tribune.
The point is, you had nothing to start that store. No bank finances an idea to sell pies, and in the early 1990s, they certainly didn't finance two women wanting to sell pies based on just an idea and some random phone calls out of the phone book.
Well, we had little to say in how we were going to start the pie shop, but we did have a say on how hard we were willing to work and how committed we'd be to it. And we worked 90 hours a week for a long time. And despite that, it was never easy, and it was never funded in a way that provided us resources.
Remember when Peg used to go out into the intersection on the business loop and she would wave her
Yep.
apron to get visitors to come in?
I do. Peg loved that. I remember that about her.
The first Peggy Jean's Pies was open for 10 years before I ever existed. It closed in 2004 because Peg was sick, and in 2005 she passed away the day before I was born. I'm sad that I never met her because I'm told that we are a lot alike and that she was a woman ahead of her times.
She would always order black coffee when we would go out to eat and ask for a glass of ice on the side so that she could make iced coffee before iced coffee was ever a thing. So I credit her every morning.
Well, that version of Peggy Jean's was really successful. We kept growing and eventually crazy enough to serve breakfast, lunch, and every kind of pie you could think of. We sold her pies in a glass Pyrex pan, and the customers paid a $4 deposit on the plate. And they could either keep the plate or bring it back in, and we'd put another pie in it for them. And I bet there's people here tonight that have a pie plate from the original Peggy Jean's, and Beck would love that.
Yeah. We used to drive all around mid-Missouri. We'd go to the lake, we'd go to the Alamo and Odessa, we'd go all these places to source these pie plates. That was a good idea. After Peggy Jean's closed in 2004, our life was pretty normal, or at least we didn't bake thousands of pies at Thanksgiving. I practiced law because Mom had made me swear on my life to not make a living standing on my feet like she had, so I had gone to law school and graduated in 2002.
And entrepreneurship is so very hard. And the food business on top of that makes it a lot more difficult. I'd worked for so long those years and navigated so much, and I couldn't think of Rebecca doing that. It was exhausting.
Except I could never get settled anywhere that I worked. I love creativity, and I found a traditional schedule to be stifling. So, who am I starting to sound like?
She did it honestly.
My mom and I tried to come up with a lot of ideas to open a business that wasn't pie-based. But people around Columbia would see her and ask if she would bake them a pie in her house, and they would just pay her cash on the down low. In the fall of 2012, she actually suggested we bake a lot of pies and sell them out of a U-Haul parking lot at the Walmart on Nifong.
I did.
Which sounds incredibly sketchy, because who would ever buy a pie out of a U-Haul in a
I
parking
would if it was
lot?
Peggy Jeans.
I agree. I said absolutely not. So one day she said, I don't know, why don't we just reboot the pie shop? A lot of people seem like they still remember Peggy Jeans, and honestly what I saw in my head was Kathleen Kelly from You've Got Mail. All I could think is that it would be so cute and so fun to own a shop, and never once did it occur to me that it was going to be a lot of work.
We decided to do it because we wanted to forge ahead on our own path. And we finally realized that we didn't need some crazy idea or some franchise idea. We could just do one thing that my grandmother had taught the family, and we could do it well, and we could do it together.
So here's probably where I should mention that prior to the fall of 2013, I had never actually made a pie.
Never.
But nothing is conventional about my mom. Instead of filling me with doubt about things that I couldn't do, she reverse engineered me to believe that we could literally do anything. It never occurred to me that starting a business would be difficult or that we could even possibly fail. It never occurred to me that the color would drain out of my husband's face when I said I was leaving a legal career to bake pies with my mother. And she's still that way. There's not an idea in this world that I would come up with that she would see the negative in. She's the most apt person I know to try anything at least once, and Ellery is much the same way. Where I will doubt, they will insist anything is possible. I could come up with any insane idea, and those two would be the first to agree we should just do it.
Yeah.
When we started considering the idea of expanding from one storefront to two,
I was beyond horrified that they would ever question it.
yep, she reminded me that we didn't work so hard to be afraid to keep moving forward, and that's a valuable perspective.
In short, we had big ideas in 2013, but not much else. It sounded familiar from when we had the first time we opened.
Yeah.
So we started the second version of Peggy Jean Pies with nothing.
Well, actually, we got drunk on margaritas in my kitchen, and we made a Kickstarter video and raised $10,000. Yeah. We've never watched the video.
She called me and said, you want to do Kickstarter? And I said, why not? And then I said, what is it?
Yeah. True story.
True, no one finances a new business without collateral, of course. And we owned all of our collateral with our husbands. But unlike my grandmother Plumley, this was going to be on our terms and under our direction. We had so many business ideas that everyone sort of wondered how serious Rebecca and I were. I always say we had more ideas than Heinz has pickles. So even our husbands wondered just how far we would go with this idea before we dropped it and found another idea.
There was nothing easy about any of it in the very beginning. Being a lawyer doesn't qualify you to run a successful business. All of these things that people shill on the internet to make you a successful entrepreneur are basically garbage. You can write all the business plans you want, and you can come up with all sorts of crazy ideas, and you can ask for all the opinions in the world, and in the end, none of it really matters.
You know, we couldn't even get, it still makes me mad, we couldn't even get a $5,000 line of credit unless our husbands co-signed.
Yeah. In short, you should never base your actions on the decisions of one person, especially loan officers. You have to believe in you have to believe in yourself more than anyone else will believe in you. If you wait to feel like you're certain about what you're doing, you will literally never start a business. If you're sitting here tonight and you are hesitant about moving forward with your business idea, we will always advise you to just move forward and figure it out as you go.
You know what really matters is what your commitment to what you want to do and how much you believe in yourself and what you decide to do. That's what it comes down to.
I've grown up watching my grandmother and mother work for something they believe in. They aren't afraid to do anything. I've had to find my own path into the business and find something I love, like creating our artwork. Luckily, in our business, there's something for each one of us are good at.
I think so much of my mother and grandmother, especially as I get older. I'm 71.
You're 70.
You're 70.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. Are you serious? I'm serious. You're 70.
I think about what they would say about packaging pies and how it's grown into 2 locations. And I also think that how we've changed from nothing, what they taught us and what we've been able to teach our family. Everything is made just simply, and they would be absolutely tickled to see what we've created.
In 60 years, we've moved from my great-grandmother with discretion only over her menu planning to building a company that grows and continues to expand. In fact, in just a few days, on Wednesday, we will celebrate PJP's 10th birthday.
Great.
I hope she's around for so many more years for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren.
I can only hope that I'm in my grandmother's age.
71.
70.
We've continued to progress to a world where all women feel empowered to start businesses and do things that no one thinks is possible. I have the benefit of being told constantly and being shown the example that I can do anything that I think of, and all women should have to think no differently.
I think the most important part of our story, The most important part of our story is there's nothing magical or unique about us. We just took an idea that already existed and decided we'd figure out how to do it and do it well. So often women ask us for advice about starting a business, and they feel like they need to have the most original idea or the approval of so many others or the perfect conditions to start or that it isn't a worthy idea. And that just isn't true, so don't believe the narrative.
Look, I've been crazy enough to start Peggy Jeans twice with no money. Both times I had Mel Bakers tell me it was not possible. Once, I remember, it was late in the afternoon, crying all the way home. I'd met with a banker, and he told me that loan funds were reserved for people with real ideas, real plans, and success. And then I got blooming mad. Mad. Not only for myself, but for all women. I decided I'd figure it out how to do it myself without help. And I did, and it never occurred to me that I shouldn't.
And that's our whole point here tonight. If you have an idea, a passion, a need to do something that's completely outrageous to your current life and you believe in yourself, then you should do it. You don't need other people to understand you or affirm your decisions. No one knows what's best for you besides you. So start the business, write the book, figure out a new path, trust your instincts and move forward. After all, Pliny would expect no less after all these years.